So I know our PowerPoints want to move us forward quicker than we're actually going. So Thomas is going to fix that for us. Grief calls to grief, doesn't it? We experience other people's grief, and it speaks to ours in some way. So whether we actually knew any of those people in that slideshow doesn't really matter. It's the grief calling to grief. And there is something so powerful about shared grief. That's why we come together in memorial services. It's why we come together like we are right now. Because there's something in that space that can be healed. But we have to be willing to feel the grief. We have to be willing to be open and vulnerable to what is arising. And grief can be scary, because grief can feel like it's going to just overwhelm you and you're never going to be able to reemerge. But as Misa and Jessica so beautifully sang, even without the people that we love still here with us in time and in space, we keep going. We keep moving. I've had the honor through this past year of sitting with so many of our community as they've navigated the loss of a loved one. And I was sitting with a member this week, just the past couple days, where a member of their family had passed away. And as we sat together in that sacred space of just being present, their grief called to my grief. And I could feel myself touching all those loved ones in my life, my father, don't laugh, but my dearest cat, Freeway, who I still cry over 15 years later. My dear friend Joe, which so many of you walked with me through his passing. And that's how we get to show up for each other. When we're actually willing to be present with our grief, we get to show up for each other, and we get to actually have that deep wellspring of compassion. And I noticed in that space that there was something cathartic about being able to just touch the grief. And as I touched the grief within myself, I also was able to touch something else, something that we believe in our teachings. Unity believes in the eternal nature of our beingness. What does that mean, really? That we are eternal? What does that really mean? Do we really believe it? Because if we really believed in our eternal beingness, then somehow this grief, this loss, somehow, for me at least, it becomes more manageable. Because if my father's eternalness is still here, then it's something I can access. It's something I have available to me. Because there's only one life, there's only one breath, there's only one beingness. And it can sound really hokey, right? But I know it in my bones. Like, I've sat with my grief, and I know in my bones that at the root of that grief is love. And not a namby-pamby kind of love, not a love that kind of comes and goes, but the deepest understanding that we have in unity about what love is, that it is the foundation of everything, that it is from where everything arises and it is from where everything returns. So as we stand in our grief, The invitation is to also stand in the love. Can you feel that? And that the more you stand in the love, the easier it is to stand in the grief and the missing. Because the missing is real. The loss is real. And yet it's not really real. And that's what we're continually being invited into in this teaching, is to understand that there is always something that is rebirthing and renewing. We're going to step into a ritual, and you all were given bulbs as you came in. And these bulbs are actually the same bulbs that we used last year. Not yet. These bulbs are actually the same bulbs that we used last year, right? And isn't that amazing that we could plant these last year, these dry, desiccated, dead-looking things? And out of this, something will grow, something will arise. The gladiolas that you see on the piano behind me. That is what is arising. That's what's available to us. And this bulb is a symbol of our faith. Our faith that as we stand with what seems to be the end, that we actually simultaneously are aware that it is a new beginning. And it doesn't happen right away. These bulbs are going to sit in that darkness. They're going to sit in that soil in the darkness. And so are we invited to sometimes just sit in the darkness of our loss and of our grief. And yet, we are always being held by love. We are always being supported as love. And we are being invited to show up for each other in love. So we're about to step into a ritual. Now you can press the next slide. And what you're going to be invited into is to just take the bulb and hold it as this symbol, this sacred expression of our deepest faith. And if you're watching on the live stream, I know that we sent out flowers with seeds in them so that, thank you, Ken, so that you too at home have a chance to participate. Everyone here in the room, you have one of these seated on your chair as well. And these are meant for you to take home, to plant in dirt, to plant in the darkness, knowing and waiting and being expectant for what is going to arise. So as we hold our bulbs, I'm inviting us all to call into being is whoever it is that you might have lost this year or in any other years. I'm inviting us to hold the collective grief for all the lives that have been lost for COVID, for all the lives that are lost due to racial injustice, all the lives that are lost to the senseless violence. And just allow yourself to center in the love and in the missing, in the love and in the grief. And in your own time, we will then invite everyone to come up, and we're going to plant these bulbs. And we've got 2 stations here, 2 stations for you to just plant the bulb, to step into this process of allowing the grief and allowing the regeneration simultaneously. So I'm going to invite our Unity singers to come on up here now.